Parshas Pinchas, I wanted to exciting idea that I found in the writings of Rav Yechezkel Levenstein in the Rav Yechezkel. Found Rav Kamenetsky take a similar approach to a question that's bothered me for many years about the parsha. So we find in the end of last week's parsha that Bilam convinces Moab and Midian to engage in immorality with the Jewish people to bring tremendous kitrug and punishment upon them, and that it's very successful and it brings a tremendous plague among the Jewish people. And Moshe commands the heads of the Sanhedrin, go and start executing people doing this. Got to bring this avodah zarah and arayos under control. And so the parsha in this week's parsha fills in pieces from last week's story that the head of Shevet Shimon, the Nasi, he's referred to in this week's parsha as Zimri ben Salu, but it comes out that the Chazal tell us he was actually Shumiyam and Sarishadai. He was the last of the remaining of the 12 Nisim who inaugurated the Mishkan in Parshas Naso. He was a tremendous tzaddik, and he went and he took a Midianite woman and he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, what right do you have to prosecute the people for taking a Midianite woman? You yourself took a Midianite woman. And Rashi explains that there's before Matan Torah, after Matan Torah, but Moshe Rabbeinu cries, he's not sure what to do, and Pinchas is the one who says, Kanan Pogim, I should go kill him, and they say, yes, Pinchas, you go do it. And Pinchas goes and he kills him, and Hashem makes tremendous miracles. The Gemara in Sanhedrin on Samach Aleph talks about how he maybe 6 miracles, the Medrash says 12 miracles. So the Gemara is on Pei Aleph, and it talks about how Hashem made miracles that the spear was able to hold both of them, and the tip was long enough to hold both of them, and they didn't die, so they didn't bleed. And he's parading them around. Hashem makes miracles to stop the rest of Shevet Shimon from attacking him. It's very clear that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on his side. And we find in history that Pinchas goes down in history as Hashem gives him the Bris Yishalom. He's Elio Hanavi. He has an eternal place in the future Gula of the Jewish people, Pasha Pshat, as a result of this action of tremendous Kiddush Hashem, tremendous zeal, standing up for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we find also that Zimri goes down in history. Chazal tell us that, an amazing thing, they tell us that Shevet Shimon is the only Shevet to never have a shofet, to never have a leader of the Jewish people, as a result of this action. That's how terrible it was, that there was a punishment for all generations, that they never brought up a leader from the Jewish people, such as the power of znus, the danger of it. So I've been bothered for years. Rashi says a surprising thing. Rashi tells us that the Jewish people, they're really antagonistic towards Pinchas about this. In the first Rashi on the parsha, Rashi says that it says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen because they said Pinchas, he's a grandson of Yitzro. His grandfather fattened calves for avodah zarah. Who's he to go and kill a Nasi from Klal Yisrael? And therefore, the pasuk says, no, he's also a grandson of Aaron HaKohen. There's 2 kashas on this. First of all, it's very clear that Pinchas is in the right here. What are they criticizing Pinchas? And also, I'm bothered a little bit, what's the critique? Oh, he's a grandson of Yisro. Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law is Yisro. There's a parsha named after Yisro. Yisro goes down also as one of the most chashuv people of the time. What kind of critique is that? Oh, he's a grandson of Yisro. So I found that the way Rav Yechezkel explains this, it's not pshat that people thought that Zimri was in the right and Pinchas was in the wrong in that sense. I don't have a good pshat of what Zimri's cheshbon for what he did was, but that what their critique was is halach of Kanan Pogin Bo, you have to be on the madrega for it. If you're on the madrega, that everything you're doing is coming from this kanas and caring about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's honor, then you could do such a thing. But if you're not in the madrega, if it's coming from some sort of anger or other midah and some sort of selfishness, then you have no right to do this. And they were arguing, Pinchas, we know the root of your middos. You come from Yisro, you come from a person who served avodah zarah. It's obvious that the middos that you inherited deep down at your core, they're not pure. And it's obvious that you have no place taking the law into your own hands and doing such an action. It's obvious that you're not worthy of doing this. And that's their critique of Pinchas. This is coming from the wrong place. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is defending him, that no, he's He's Ben Aaron HaKohen. This is coming from the Middos of Aaron, who's a Rodef Shalom. It's that same Midah of trying to create peace that led him to do this, which brought back peace to Klal Yisrael, ended the plague. And in fact, that's why he's blessed with the Brisi Shalom. I've wondered for years of why this is such a tremendous thing for Pinchas. I mean, this is a tremendous thing, but we have lots of stories of people doing tremendous things and they don't become Eliyahu Hanavi. I'm wondering if maybe it has to do with the challenge of having to do such a thing and maybe in touch with one's own Middos. Am I really 100% sure? Am I really the right person for this job? Efsher. And Rav Yechezkel goes on this point about the importance of seeing the root of our Middos and aligning them properly. He takes an interesting approach to Bilam. Some people take the approach with Bilam, that Bilam's a Rasha, and for whatever reason, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him Nevuah, but he really wasn't deserving. But Rav Yechezkel Levenstein takes the approach, in fact, that it's clear in the Torah that he says, Bilam could give me all the money in the world, I can't do something Hashem doesn't want. That he was a tremendous Maimin in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And his Nevuahs are prophesizing the future of the Jewish people and what's going to be in the end of days. And even so, then he goes around with the Rishus and does what he can to try to destroy the Jewish people, even after that, with this story of Baal Peor, as much as he can. Rav Yechezkel says people have a misconception. They think the main thing, I have to try to be an Oved Hashem, I have to try to do mitzvahs, and then I'm good. I'm trying to do mitzvahs, I'm trying to be an Oved Hashem. So that's the most important thing. And while that's very essential, he says, it's also important that we focus on Middos. We have people like Doeg, we have people like Achitofel. They're from the Gedolei Hador, but they had bad Middos, and their Middos brought. And that's how he frames Bilam also. That he says, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us a person has these three Middos, he's from the Tamidim of Avram Avinu. He has these three Middos, he's from the Tamidim of Bilam HaRasha. That it was Bilam's bad Middos which brought him down and took him apart. From somebody who, in essence, had the power to really, he had Nevuah and he had the power to really be a great person. The Orchos Sadikim really makes this point very strong. He's been Zoiche to do the Hachzik program, been doing the Hakdama to the Orchos Sadikim, and he compares it to you have a barrel with the most beautiful and precious wine. There's just one problem, there's a small hole in it, and that causes it to lose all this wine. He says, so too you can have a person and he's learning Torah and he's doing mitzvahs, but he has this hole, he has this bad midah of gaiva or kas, and it could cause him to do tremendous things. It could cause him to lose everything. I mean, this is not to make us depressed and say, oh yeah, I could try to be a good person and I still might fall apart. It's not, Hashem doesn't have unrealistic expectations of us. What it is that we have to do cheshbon nefesh. We have to look at ourselves and say, what I'm doing, where is it coming from? If a person finds that he gets upset at people often, not to just say, well, I deal with upsetting people, maybe it's coming from Middos HaKas within me. If a person finds himself turned off by people, maybe that he thinks they're immature, doing silly things, maybe, but maybe there's a Middos HaGaiva that I have that's causing me to look down on other people. When we have strong feelings, we have to take a look. When we make mistakes and are not the people who we want to be, we have to take a look. We have to say, maybe there's a midah that's like, if I would see this in somebody else, I might judge them, they have a certain midah. Maybe I have to look at myself. Maybe I have this midah. Because that's really the lesson that Rav Yechezkel wants us to take from Bilam, is this idea that a person can have a lot of pieces in place to become a great person. And at the same time, if they don't work on their middos, if they're not sensitive to trying to figure out the dynamics within the human being, they can end up doing terrible things. You have a person, he's a tremendous Talmid Chacham. Just one problem, he's a vayish people barabim, or maybe a person is a tremendous Baal Chesed, and they do a lot of good things, and at the same time, it can lead them to have tremendous gaiva, and they could come to look down on people who don't do what they're doing. So we really have to analyze our middos, and this is really how they looked at Pinchas, according to Rav Yechezkel and Rav Yaakov, and they really said, just because he did this Maisa, but how do we know what middos it's coming from? How do we know what it's really pure? And they said, we know that he has this bad root coming from his grandfather, and therefore we have all the more reason to suspect him, because we have to realize how deep that the middos do go that deep, and they do pull on us on those deep levels. And we be zoche to recognize the importance of tikkun middos tar avodas Hashem and becoming the kind of people we want to become. May Hashem bring us siyata d'shmaya and being able to see ourselves truthfully and go in the path of avodas Hashem. Have a wonderful Shabbos.